تسمية النائب الأستاذ فنان سلام.
Good afternoon. It is Sunday, April 7th. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's headlines. Maronite Patriarch Shadadai expresses hope that there will be a consensus among the Lebanese on a fair electoral law and on the formation of a new government. Senora calls for a homogenous group in the government that Premier-designate Tamam Salam will start forming as of Tuesday. The World Health Organization visits a medical facility in the Syrian capital, Damascus, and says most of their staff in the country are now Syrians. Maronite Patriarch Shadadai has expressed hope that there will be consensus reached among the Lebanese on a fair electoral law and on the formation of the new government. Adai, in his sermon during a mass attended by Free Patriotic Movement Chief MP Michel Aoun and members of his Change and Reform bloc, said that he hopes the coming days would bring consensus on a new electoral law that is fair and guarantees to all citizens the best representation in Parliament. Adai, who travels to France tomorrow for talks with top officials, said in his sermon he would later visit the Lebanese expatriates in Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, Venezuela, Costa Rica, and Colombia. Saudi Arabia was one of the countries to congratulate over the weekend MP Tamam Salam on his appointment as Prime Minister designate, while MP Michel Aoun vowed to facilitate the process of forming a new cabinet starting next week. Analysts and political sources have said that Saudi Arabia played a key role in promoting Salam as a consensus candidate to the premiership because of its concern over Lebanon's security and stability. On another note, following a meeting with Maronite Patriarch Shadadai, the head of the Free Patriotic Movement, MP Michel Aoun, vowed to help Salam with the difficult task of forming a new government. Aoun told reporters in Kirkuk, quote, "We will facilitate the formation of the government and we hope that there will not be spiteful political practices similar to what we had spoken about." Aoun was referring to MP Walid Jumblat, who opposed a return of FPM figures to the energy and telecommunications ministries. Future Bloc leader Fouad Senura hopes for a homogenous group in the government that Premier-designate Tamam Salam will start forming as of Tuesday. "We should unite and help the formation of the cabinet," Senura told his visitors in Saida. "We are now in a new stage in Lebanon's history and have an opportunity to limit tension and bring a homogenous group to the government away from all tension between the political rivals." Senura reiterated to his visitors that the Future Movement wants the new cabinet's main tasks to be the organization of the parliamentary elections after helping the rival parties in clinching the deal on the new electoral law. Qatar MP Sami Jmail urged Premier-designate Tamam Salam to push for an agreement on the electoral draft law to protect Lebanon's security and rebuild trust in the country. Salam should work on agreeing on an electoral draft law that receives the backing of all the Lebanese, protect Lebanon from security deterioration locally and on its borders, and work on rebuilding international trust in the country, Jmail said at his party's executive forum held at the Forum de Beirut. The lawmaker wished Salam good luck in forming the new cabinet to salvage Lebanon at this difficult stage. He also said Salam believes there is no partnership in Lebanon without all of the Lebanese. The lawmaker also promised his party members a revolution against the political performance of officials, which he said was based on lies. Prime Minister-designate Tamam Salam's priority for a national interest government blocks the appointment of ministers who are planning to run in the parliamentary elections and prevent a portfolio from being monopolized by a single sect. According to officials close to the MP-designate, his priority is to set the shape and identity of the new cabinet. His slogan of national interest is based on the formation of a medium-sized government that excludes electoral candidates. They also stressed, the sources, that the cabinet will include a mixture of politicians who will be handed portfolios in a way that prevents a single confession from controlling them. Salam's difficult job starts on Tuesday when he launches parliamentary consultations with different blocs on the shape of the government and the division of portfolios. A Syrian government airstrike killed at least 15 people, including 9 children, in a district of the northern city of Aleppo, where Kurdish fighters have been battling forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad and violence monitoring group, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, said a warplane had bombarded the Sheikh Maqsoud district of Aleppo, which is Syria's biggest city, and where Assad's forces have been battering rebels for 9 months. Video posted on the internet purported to show the aftermath of the Saturday airstrike in Ashrafiyya district, just west of Sheikh Maqsoud district. Several bodies were seen lying in the street near burning vehicles and buildings as people helped those injured. One woman was seen picking up the lifeless body of a child and waiting while standing in the middle of the street amid the chaos. The clip appeared to show the moment of a fresh airstrike while people were placing bodies onto the back of a truck, which sent them running for cover. However, Reuters could not independently verify the content, which was obtained from a social media website. But it says Assad has lost swaths of territory in the north and eastern of the country, and rebels are holding several eastern and southern districts of Damascus and are continuously posing a growing challenge in the southern province of Daraa, the cradle of the two-year uprising, which could become a platform for a fierce assault on the capital. The United Nations says at least 70,000 people have been killed in Syria's conflict, and daily death tolls of around 200 are not uncommon, activists say. This all comes as the World Health Organization visits a field hospital in Damascus in Syria and say most of their staff in the country are now Syrians.
We have a very strong team of national Syrians working with the World Health Organization. This country has very, very high level of doctors and health professionals. So the team in WHO consists of mainly Syrians from all over the country, and they continue to support their people. What is very important, the UN has a role to play, but the most important role through this difficult situation is played by the Syrian people themselves. WHO has received money now in 2013 from the traditional donor, from the Western countries. What we have not received is any follow-up from the Kuwaiti conference, from the non-traditional governments, from the Gulf countries. But we are continuing to support the Syrian people throughout the country.
Coming up next, hundreds of delegates meet in Doha for a donor conference to raise support for a multi-billion-dollar project to rebuild Sudan's Darfur. Stay with us. Welcome back. A weekend cyber attack campaign has targeted Israeli government websites but failed to cause serious disruption. Yitzhak bin Yisrael of the government's National Cyber Bureau said that hackers had mostly failed to shut down key sites. The cyber attacks followed a warning from the hacker group titled Anonymous, which said it would launch a massive attack on Israeli sites in an operation called Op Israel. You have shown that you do not respect international law, the group in a video released online addressing the Israeli government said, adding that this is why, on April 7th, elite cyber squadrons from around the world have decided to unite in solidarity with the Palestinian people against Israel as one entity to disrupt and erase Israel from cyberspace. Media reports said the sites of the Defense and Education Ministry as well as banks had come under attack the night before, but were mostly repelled. Haaretz newspaper said almost 19,000 Israeli Facebook accounts had been attacked by hackers affiliated with Anonymous. Hundreds of delegates are meeting in Doha as we speak for a donor conference to raise support for a multi-billion-dollar project to rebuild Sudan's Darfur region after a decade-long conflict. The two-day conference beginning on Sunday was agreed under a July 2011 peace deal that Khartoum signed in the Qatari capital with an alliance of rebel splinter groups. George Connell, the team leader of the UN Development Program in Sudan, said the conference would be a unique opportunity for Sudan and Darfur to turn the destiny of the conflict-ridden region. Britain on Sunday pledged at least $16.5 million for Darfur annually over the next 3 years to help communities to grow their own food and for providing skills training to help people find work. The development strategy proposed calls for agriculture upgrades, access to financing, and other measures to help Darfuris support themselves under a more effective system of local government. The EU's foreign policy chief has said that nuclear talks between Iran and 6 world powers have failed to reach an agreement. Catherine Ashton said that the discussions in Kazakhstan revealed that the two sides remain far apart on substance. The 6 insist that Iran cut back on its highest grade uranium enrichment production and stockpile, fearing Iran will divert it from making nuclear fuel to form the material used in the core of nuclear warhead. The P5+1 had this proposal that required the Iranians to cease their enrichment of uranium to 20% levels because that's the amount they claim that brings them closer to being able to acquire a nuclear weapon in exchange for the imposition of more modest sanctions. Iran countered with a proposal that focused on recognizing Iran's right to enrich uranium. Around 235 Ivorian soldiers have been earmarked to leave for Mali in April to provide logistical support and supplies to the regional African forces stationed there. And on Saturday, they gathered on the outskirts of the Ivorian capital, Yamoussoukro, to get ready for what they may have to face in Mali. Although they are not going to be involved in direct combat, the soldiers are receiving essential training to prepare them for surprise attacks and ambush situations whilst traveling in supply convoys. Around 200 French Licorne soldiers stationed in Ivory Coast are involved in the 5-week training operation. This Ivorian contingent will provide supplies of thousands of African troops already in Mali in support of France's 3-month military campaign, which has swept Islamist rebels out of the towns of northern Mali and into remote desert and mountain hideaways. Ivorian General Soumaïla Bakayoko says his soldiers are ready for all eventualities. In other world news, Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard welcomed cooperation in Asia to counter North Korean aggression. Speaking at the opening ceremony at the Boao Forum for Asia held on China's southern Hainan Island, Gillard said that the continent needed stability in order to prosper.
Asia must be a region of sustainable security in which habits of cooperation are the norm. Peace and prosperity are challenges which endure of all regional governments to prevent conflict on the Korean Peninsula and to counter North Korean aggression. Here, 2 great enduring responsibilities are discussed: continuing Asia's economic growth while achieving human development, and maintaining Asia's peaceful regional order while growth changes the strategic balance. Growth in the region must continue and must strengthen.
World news in brief. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry begins a short visit to Turkey, where he meets Turkish Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoglu for talks on the latest developments in the region. Kerry is to press Turkey to quickly normalize relations with Israel, keep its border with Syria open to refugees, and improve ties with Iraq. Kerry will also raise Syria and Iraq during his talks on Sunday with Erdogan and Davutoglu in Istanbul, his first stop on a 10-day trip to the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. The death of at least 5 Americans in the deadliest day for foreigners in Afghanistan this year has highlighted fears about Taliban's strength ahead of NATO's withdrawal in 2014. A suicide car bomber struck a NATO convoy in the southern province of Zabul on Saturday, killing 3 U.S. soldiers and 2 civilians, including a female American diplomat traveling with Afghani officials to distribute books to students. Another U.S. civilian was killed in an attack in the country's east, making it the deadliest day of insurgent violence against the coalition since July 8th of last year. South Africans give thanks this Sunday for the improvement in the health of Nelson Mandela, the former president who was discharged from a hospital after treatment for pneumonia. Members of an outdoor congregation in Johannesburg say the 94-year-old Mandela was in their thoughts often during his most recent hospitalization. The anti-apartheid leader and Nobel Peace Prize laureate was admitted to a hospital in the South African capital of Pretoria on the night of March 27th and was discharged on Saturday. Hundreds of people gathered on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. for International Pillow Fight Day. The massive fight began in the mid-afternoon near the Washington Monument. In the shadow of world-famous monuments, including the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument, hundreds of people slammed each other with pillows in a friendly yet heated battle that included both young and old in a long-lived American tradition. Organized pillow fights took place in numerous other cities, including Los Angeles, Seattle, and New York. Also around the world, pillow fights took place in cities like Barcelona, Sao Paulo, and Toronto. The events were organized by the Urban Playground Movement, which aims to set up free events in cities across the globe. We should bring these pillow fights to Beirut. And on that note, we end our bulletin for today. Let me remind you of the top stories. Maronite Patriarch Shaddai expresses hope that there will be consensus among the Lebanese on a fair electoral law and on the formation of a new government. The New York calls for a homogenous group in the government that Premier designate Tamam Salam will start forming as of Tuesday. And the World Health Organization visits a medical facility in the Syrian capital Damascus and says most of their staff in the country are now Syrians. Those are your Sunday headlines live on Future Television. Join Linda Tamim tomorrow at 4:20 for what's making headlines in Lebanon and around the world. In Beirut, I'm Yumna Naufal wishing you a good week.
تسمية النائب الأستاذ فنان سلام.